someone's eyes and realized the person you trusted the most had been living a completely different life? My name is Emma, and for 12 years, I believed my husband Daniel was my safe place. We weren't rich and we weren't perfect, but I thought we were honest with each other. We built our home with patience, celebrated small victories, and dreamed about growing old together. At least, that's what I believed. Daniel traveled often for work. He always had a reasonable explanation for every late night and every missed dinner. I never questioned him because trust isn't something you should have to prove every day. Then one rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. I was cleaning our home office when I found an old phone hidden inside the bottom drawer of his desk. At first, I assumed it was one of his old devices, but when I pressed the power button, it came to life. There were no family photos, no work emails, just hundreds of messages from one woman. My hands started shaking. The conversations weren't just romantic. They were full of promises. Promises about vacations, moving in together, even jokes about how his wife would never figure it out. His wife. That was me. I couldn't breathe. Every anniversary dinner, every birthday gift, every I love you, suddenly felt fake. When Daniel came home that night, he smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey Em," he said. "Long day." I forced myself to smile back. "Yeah, mine too." But what he didn't know was that my world had already fallen apart. I spent the next few days pretending everything was normal. I laughed at his jokes. I cooked dinner. I kissed him goodbye every morning. Inside, I was breaking. But something inside me slowly changed. Instead of asking questions, I started searching for answers. And the more I discovered, the more I realized his affair wasn't even his biggest secret. There was something much darker hiding beneath the lies, something that could destroy everything he had worked so hard to protect. And that was the moment I stopped crying. I started planning. Because if Daniel wanted to build his happiness on my heartbreak, he had no idea what the truth was about to cost him. For 2 weeks, I quietly gathered pieces of the puzzle. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I was looking for the truth. Daniel had become careless. While he focused on protecting his secret relationship, he forgot that little details always tell the biggest stories. Bank statements, business receipts, late-night phone calls, meetings that never appeared on his work calendar. One afternoon, while organizing paperwork for our taxes, I noticed several payments connected to a company I'd never heard of. Curious, I searched online. The company didn't exist. It was only a name. The deeper I looked, the more questions appeared. Daniel had been moving money into hidden accounts for years without telling me. The savings we were supposed to use for our future, our children's education, our retirement, much of it had quietly disappeared. The affair wasn't the only betrayal. He had been lying about our entire financial life. I couldn't believe someone I loved could hide so much while pretending everything was fine. That night he looked at me across the dinner table. "You seem quiet." I smiled softly. "Just tired." He nodded without looking up from his phone. That simple moment told me everything. He wasn't even trying anymore. The man I married had disappeared long before I found that secret phone. Over the next week, I copied every document I found, every bank transfer, every fake invoice, every hidden account. I didn't touch a single dollar. I didn't damage anything. I simply organized the truth. The hardest part wasn't collecting evidence. It was pretending my heart wasn't breaking every single day. Sometimes I wanted to scream. Sometimes I wanted to ask why. But I realized something important. People who spend years building lies rarely tell the truth because they're asked nicely. Eventually, Daniel announced he would be traveling for another business conference. I already knew the truth. He wasn't traveling for work. He was meeting the other woman. Instead of crying after he left, I made one phone call, my lawyer, then another, our financial advisor. Finally, I arranged a meeting with the company's internal ethics department, where Daniel worked as a senior financial manager. I didn't make accusations. I simply handed them copies of documents that already existed. The truth could speak for itself. For the first time in weeks, I finally slept peacefully, because I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was choosing honesty, and honesty was about to change everything. 3 weeks later, Daniel returned home expecting life to continue as usual. Instead, he found divorce papers waiting on the kitchen table. Next to them sat one simple envelope. Inside were copies of every document I had discovered. When he realized what I knew, the confidence disappeared from his face. "Emma, Please let me explain. I looked at him calmly. I already gave you 12 years to explain. He sat down, unable to speak. For the first time since I met him, he looked afraid. Within days, his company completed its internal investigation. Because the documents were genuine, they uncovered financial misconduct that had nothing to do with me. His professional reputation collapsed under the weight of his own decisions. The woman he had chosen over our marriage quietly disappeared from his life once everything became public among the people involved. The future he thought he was building vanished almost overnight. Meanwhile, I started rebuilding mine. It wasn't easy. Healing never happens all at once. Some mornings I still woke up remembering the life I thought I had. But slowly, those memories stopped hurting. I moved into a smaller home that felt peaceful. I reconnected with old friends. I started painting again, a hobby I had abandoned years earlier because life had become too busy. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't living to keep someone else happy. I was finally choosing myself. Months later, Daniel sent one final message. I'm sorry, I lost everything. I looked at those words for a long time. Then I quietly deleted the message. Because he hadn't lost everything because of me. He lost everything because of the choices he made. That was never my revenge. My revenge was refusing to let his betrayal define the rest of my life. Today, when people ask how I survived the hardest chapter of my life, I always give the same answer. The truth doesn't always arrive quickly, but when it finally does, it has a quiet way of setting you free. And sometimes, walking away with your dignity is the greatest victory of all.